Seniors, over 60. Why you keep waking up at 3 a.m.? Your body may be sending you a warning. Do you find yourself lying wide awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, wondering why your body simply refuses to let you sleep? Maybe it happens once in a while and you brush it off. But what if it happens almost every single night? The same time, the same restless feeling, the same exhausted frustration the next morning. What if your body is not just being difficult, but is actually trying to tell you something important? Most seniors are told the same thing. Broken sleep is just part of getting older. Your doctor smiles sympathetically, perhaps suggests a sleep aid, and moves on. But here's what most seniors never hear. Waking up repeatedly at exactly 3 in the morning is not always a random inconvenience. Sometimes it is a pattern, and patterns, especially in the body of someone over 60, often have a reason behind them. That reason could be related to how your blood sugar is behaving in the middle of the night. It could be connected to your heart, your breathing, your stress hormones, or even the timing of a medication you have been taking for years without question. Some of these causes are simple to address once you know what to look for. Others deserve a conversation with your doctor sooner rather than later. In this video, you are going to discover what is actually happening inside your body between 2 and 4 in the morning, why aging changes the way you sleep at a biological level, what warning signs may be hiding behind that 3 o'clock wake up, and exactly what you can do tonight to begin sleeping better. Stay until the end because one of these warning signs could be affecting you right now without you even realizing it. If you enjoy simple, trustworthy senior health advice every week, subscribe and turn on notifications. It only takes a moment and could help protect your health. To truly understand why 3 in the morning seems to be such a common wake-up time for older adults, you need to understand what your body is actually doing during those hours, because it is far more active than most people realize. Sleep is not a flat, unchanging state. It moves in cycles, roughly 90 minutes each, alternating between lighter and deeper stages. The deepest, most restorative sleep tends to happen in the first half of the night. By the early hours of the morning, particularly between 2 and 4 dalsri, your body begins shifting into lighter sleep stages. This is a normal part of human biology, but for seniors, this transition becomes far more fragile for several important reasons. Think of your sleep cycle like a series of gentle hills and valleys. When you are young, those hills and valleys are smooth and predictable. Your body moves between stages almost without noticing. But after the age of 60, those transitions become bumpier. The valleys are shallower. The moments where you almost surface to wakefulness happen more frequently, and it takes less disruption to push you fully awake. Now consider what else is happening inside your body at 3 in the morning. This is the time when cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, begins to rise naturally in preparation for the day ahead. In younger people, this early cortisol rise is gradual and gentle. But in older adults, particularly those under chronic stress, dealing with health anxiety, or managing conditions like diabetes, this cortisol release can be stronger and more abrupt. It is like someone quietly turning up the volume in a room you were sleeping in. Suddenly, you are awake. Blood sugar plays a significant role as well. In the middle of the night, the body sometimes experiences a dip in blood glucose, particularly in people with diabetes or blood sugar regulation issues. When glucose drops, the body responds by releasing adrenaline and cortisol as emergency signals. This is the body's alarm system doing exactly what it was designed to do. But the result for you is a sudden awakening, often accompanied by a racing heart, a feeling of unease, or an inexplicable sense of anxiety, and you have no idea why. Hydration is another quiet factor. Many seniors drink very little water in the evening to avoid nighttime trips to the bathroom. But mild dehydration through the night actually increases cortisol levels and can disrupt the natural drop in blood pressure that healthy sleep requires. Imagine trying to rest while your body is quietly signaling a mild state of stress. Sleep simply cannot settle. And then there is the heart. During the shift into lighter sleep stages in the early morning hours, heart rate and blood pressure begin to edge upward slightly. For most people, this is harmless. But for seniors with underlying cardiovascular concerns, even ones not yet diagnosed, this natural transition can trigger discomfort or awareness that pulls them awake. Waking occasionally during the night is normal for anyone, but waking at the same time, night after night, feeling tired and unsettled and unable to return to sleep easily, that is a pattern worth paying attention to. Let me tell you about Dorothy Hargreaves. Dorothy is 72 years old, a retired primary school librarian from a small town in rural Scotland. She lives alone and, by her own description, had always been a good sleeper. For most of her adult life, she went to bed at 10, slept through until 6, and woke up feeling rested and ready for the day. Then, about 2 years before she sought help, something shifted. Almost without warning, Dorothy began waking up at 3 in the morning, sometimes 3:15, occasionally closer to 4, but almost always during that narrow window. She would lie awake for an hour, sometimes 2, with a strange feeling she struggled to describe. Not quite anxious, not in pain, just deeply unsettled, with a heart that felt slightly too present in her chest and a mind that refused to quiet down. By morning, she was exhausted. By afternoon, she could barely keep her eyes open. She began napping in her armchair at 2 in the afternoon, which then made it harder to fall asleep at night, which made the 3 o'clock waking worse, which made the next day even more difficult. She told her daughter she felt like she was losing her mind. Dorothy had type 2 diabetes, managed with metformin, and her blood sugar had always been reasonably controlled. Or so she thought, when her general practitioner arranged for a continuous glucose monitor to track her overnight blood sugar levels, the picture became very clear. Between 2 and 3:30 in the morning, Dorothy's blood glucose was dropping consistently, not into dangerous territory, but low enough to trigger a hormonal response from her body. Adrenaline, cortisol, wakefulness. The culprit was her evening routine. Dorothy ate her main meal at 5:30 in the afternoon, which she had done for decades. But as her metabolism had slowed with age, and as her diabetes medication worked through the night, her blood sugar was running too low by the early hours. Her body was waking her up to protect itself. The solution was modest, but precise. Her dinner was moved to 7 in the evening. A small protein-based snack, Greek yogurt with a few walnuts, was added before bed. Her metformin dose timing was reviewed with her doctor. Within 3 weeks, Dorothy was sleeping through to 5:30 most mornings. Her daytime energy returned. The afternoon napping stopped. She said to her doctor very quietly, "I thought it was just my age. I had no idea my body was trying to protect me." Dorothy's story is just one version of what can drive a senior awake at 3 in the morning. And here's what most seniors never hear. There are several very different causes, and knowing which one might apply to you is the key to actually doing something about it. Sleep apnea is one of the most underdiagnosed conditions in adults over 60, particularly in men, though women are affected far more often after menopause than most realize. Sleep apnea causes repeated interruptions to breathing during sleep. Each time breathing pauses, the brain registers a threat and pulls the body toward wakefulness. Many people with sleep apnea never hear the loud snoring or gasping that their partner notices. They simply find themselves waking repeatedly, feeling unrested and having no explanation for it. If you wake at 3 feeling like you are surfacing from deep water with a dry mouth or a headache, sleep apnea deserves serious consideration. Stress and anxiety work in a subtler way. Chronic low-level anxiety, the kind that many seniors carry silently, worrying about health, finances, family, or simply the fear of aging, keeps the nervous system in a heightened state. Cortisol, the stress hormone, does not follow a normal rhythm in a chronically anxious body. It rises too early, too strongly, and pulls sleep apart from the inside. Blood sugar fluctuations, as Dorothy discovered, are among the most common and least recognized causes of early morning waking in seniors with diabetes or prediabetes. The body's response to overnight glucose changes is powerful and automatic, and it often manifests as a sudden anxious wakefulness that feels almost electrical. Dehydration through the night raises cortisol and increases the body's state of low-level alert. Many seniors are mildly dehydrated consistently, particularly those who avoid fluids in the evening. This quiet physical stress is enough to disrupt sleep architecture in the early morning hours. Medication timing is something almost no one discusses with their doctor until a problem arises. Many common medications, blood pressure drugs, diuretics, certain antidepressants, and even some heart medications, have effects that peak at particular times depending on when they are taken. If a diuretic taken in the evening is pulling fluids through the kidneys at 3 in the morning, nighttime urination becomes unavoidable. If a medication stimulates the nervous system slightly, it may do so during lighter sleep stages when it can actually wake you. Heart-related changes deserve mention carefully and without alarm. The early morning hours bring a natural, slight elevation in heart rate and blood pressure. For most people, this is harmless. But for seniors with undiagnosed or partially managed heart conditions, this shift can trigger awareness, palpitations, or a sense of pressure that pulls them awake. This is not something to ignore, and we will talk about when to see a doctor shortly. Finally, frequent nighttime urination, a condition called nocturia, is extremely common in older adults and is one of the most straightforward reasons for waking at 3. Enlarged prostate, weakened bladder muscles, reduced kidney efficiency, or simply too much fluid taken too late in the evening can all be contributing factors. Now let's be honest about something that needs to be said clearly. There is a widely held belief among both seniors and, unfortunately, among some doctors that broken and fragmented sleep is simply an unavoidable part of getting older. You hear it all the time. Of course you're not sleeping well. You're in your 70s. Light sleep is just what happens at your age. Everyone your age wakes up at night. But recent research published in journals including Sleep Medicine and the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine tells a more nuanced story. While it is true that aging does change sleep architecture, reducing deep sleep stages and making transitions between cycles lighter, it does not mean that consistently waking at 3 in the morning, lying awake for hours, and spending the next day exhausted is something that simply must be accepted. The distinction researchers increasingly make is between normal age-related sleep changes and sleep disruption that is being driven by an underlying, addressable cause. One is biology, the other is a signal, and many seniors spend years, sometimes decades, treating the signal as if it were simply biology, when in fact their body is asking for something very specific. There is also a significant misunderstanding about sleep depth and sleep need. Many older adults believe they need less sleep as they age. In reality, the need for sleep does not decrease as dramatically as most assume. What decreases is the ability to achieve deep, consolidated sleep without the right conditions. That is a very different problem, and it is one that can often be meaningfully improved with the right approach. Your body often whispers before it starts to shout. A persistent 3 o'clock wake-up is a whisper. It deserves to be heard, not silenced with a sleep tablet and an assumption that nothing can be done. So what can you actually do? Here is a practical, realistic guide, not vague suggestions, but specific steps grounded in what we know about senior sleep physiology. Start with your evening meal. Ideally, seniors with blood sugar concerns should eat their last main meal no later than 7 in the evening. Eating too early, before 6 for example, leaves a long gap before sleep that can allow blood glucose to drop significantly in the early morning hours. A light, protein-containing snack before bed, around 9 or 9:30, can help stabilize overnight blood sugar. Good options include a small portion of Greek yogurt, a boiled egg, a few walnuts, or a small piece of cheese with a whole grain cracker. These foods release energy slowly and reduce the risk of a blood sugar dip at 3 in the morning. Hydration needs to be managed thoughtfully. You need adequate fluid through the day. Aim for 6 to 8 glasses of water, but front-load your hydration in the morning and afternoon. After 6 in the evening, reduce fluid intake gradually. Avoid large glasses of water immediately before bed. This balance keeps you hydrated enough to prevent cortisol-related sleep disruption while reducing the likelihood of needing the bathroom at 3 in the morning. Your bedroom environment matters more than most people appreciate. The ideal sleeping temperature for seniors is between 16 and 18 degrees Celsius, cool but not cold. A warm room is one of the most common and easily corrected causes of early morning waking. Even if you feel comfortable in a warmer room when you get into bed, your body temperature drops naturally during sleep, and a room that is too warm will begin to disrupt your sleep in the early hours. Light exposure is powerful. Avoid bright overhead lights for at least an hour before bed. Blue light from phones, tablets, and television suppresses melatonin, the hormone that signals to your brain that it is time to sleep. Switch to lamps. Use a reading mode on your screen if you use one, and try to be in a low-light environment by 9 in the evening. Exercise timing matters significantly. Exercise improves sleep quality enormously in older adults, but vigorous exercise within 3 hours of bedtime can elevate cortisol and heart rate in ways that disrupt sleep onset and early morning sleep stages. Aim for your main physical activity in the morning or early afternoon. A gentle 10 to 15-minute walk after dinner, however, is beneficial. It helps regulate blood sugar and signals to your body that the day is winding down. Caffeine has a longer half-life in older adults than most people realize, often 6 to 8 hours. A cup of coffee at 3 in the afternoon may still be affecting your sleep at 11 at night. If you are waking at 3, try cutting off caffeine entirely after midday for 2 weeks and see whether your pattern changes. Finally, review your medication timing with your doctor. Bring a list of everything you take, including the time you take it, and ask specifically whether any of your medications could be contributing to early morning waking, nighttime urination, or sleep disruption. Tell me in the comments, what time do you usually wake up during the night? I read every single response, and your experience might help someone else watching right now. Let me share one more story, because this one may speak to a very different group of you. Gerald Chen is 69 years old, a retired engineer from Vancouver, Canada. Unlike Dorothy, Gerald had never been a particularly anxious person. He was practical, calm, and physically active, still walking 4 times a week and eating what he considered a careful diet. His blood sugar was fine, his blood pressure was managed. By every standard measure, Gerald was doing well. And yet, for almost a year, he had been waking somewhere between 2:45 and 3:15 every single morning. Not with anxiety, not with a racing heart, just fully, completely awake, as though someone had flipped a switch. He would lie in bed for an hour, drift off briefly, and then his alarm would go off at 6:30. Day after day, he arrived at breakfast feeling like he had been cheated out of something he could not name. What Gerald's doctor eventually identified after a sleep study was mild obstructive sleep apnea, not severe, not the dramatic, gasping version most people imagine. Gerald's airway was partially narrowing during the lighter sleep stages of the early morning, subtly reducing his oxygen levels just enough for his brain to pull him awake. He had no idea it was happening. His wife had never noticed loud snoring. There had been no obvious signs at all. A lightweight CPAP device, worn only during sleep, changed Gerald's nights within 2 weeks. By the end of the first month, he was sleeping through until 5:45 or 6 almost every morning. His energy during the day improved so noticeably that friends commented on it. Gerald is not a man who uses many words, but he said something that stayed with his doctor. "I thought I was just getting old. Turns out I was just not breathing properly." Building an evening routine that genuinely supports sleep in seniors over 60 does not have to be complicated. It simply has to be consistent. Begin winding down at 8 in the evening. If you have had dinner by 7, your digestive system has had an hour to begin settling. This is a good time to step away from anything stimulating. News programs, intense television dramas, difficult phone conversations. These raise cortisol, and elevated cortisol at 8 in the evening is still circulating at midnight. Between 8 and 9, take your gentle evening walk if you have not already. 10 to 15 minutes is sufficient. The goal is not exercise. It is blood sugar regulation and nervous system signaling. After the walk, have a small protein-based snack if you are prone to blood sugar dips at night. Greek yogurt, a handful of walnuts, or a small piece of cheese are all appropriate choices. At 9, begin your bedroom preparation. Lower the thermostat or open a window to cool the room slightly. Switch off overhead lights. If you read before bed, use a lamp with warm-toned light rather than a bright white one. If you use a phone or tablet, switch to the night or reading mode and dim the screen significantly. If you notice your mind beginning to race as you get into bed, replaying the day, worrying about tomorrow, keep a small notepad by your bedside. Write down whatever is occupying your thoughts. This simple act of transferring worry from your mind to paper reduces the brain's sense of obligation to hold on to it through the night. Aim to be in bed with lights off between 9:30 and 10:30, depending on when you naturally need to rise. Consistency in your sleep and wake times, even on weekends, is one of the most powerful regulators of sleep quality available to seniors. Your body clock responds to routine more than almost anything else. If you need extra support relaxing, a few minutes of slow, deep breathing, in for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 6, can lower heart rate and cortisol meaningfully before sleep. It is simple, it is free, and it works. There are certain symptoms that should move you from watching a video to calling your doctor, not tomorrow. Today, if you wake at 3 with chest discomfort, pressure, tightness, or pain that radiates to your arm, jaw, or back, call emergency services immediately. These are not symptoms to wait out or investigate with a search engine. If you are waking with severe shortness of breath, particularly if you feel as though you cannot catch your breath for more than a minute or two, this warrants urgent attention. If your partner tells you that you snore very loudly, gasp, or stop breathing during sleep, even if you feel fine, please ask your doctor about a sleep study. Sleep apnea in seniors is frequently undiagnosed and is associated with increased cardiovascular risk. If you are getting up 3, 4, or 5 times per night to urinate, speak to your doctor. This frequency is beyond normal variation and deserves investigation. Dizziness or lightheadedness when you stand after waking at night, particularly if it is recurring, can indicate a blood pressure regulation issue that needs assessment. And if you are simply exhausted every single day despite spending adequate time in bed, and nothing you try seems to help, that persistent, unexplained fatigue deserves a conversation with your doctor. It is not just aging, it is a signal worth following. You came here tonight, or this morning, or during whatever quiet moment you found to watch this, because something is not right, and you deserve to understand why. And here is what I hope you are leaving with. Your body is not simply failing. It is communicating. That 3 in the morning wake up, the one that leaves you lying there exhausted and frustrated, staring at a ceiling that offers no answers, is often not random. It is patterned, and patterns have causes. Dorothy's cause was her blood sugar. Gerald's was his breathing. Yours may be neither of those things. But the point is that there is a reason, and reasons can be investigated, understood, and in many cases, addressed. Dorothy told her doctor she had simply accepted the exhaustion because she thought it was what aging looked like. She spent 2 years waking tired and confused every morning, believing that nothing could be done. Please do not make the same mistake. Your body is still capable of healing, adapting, and responding at any age. It may simply need the right attention. If this video helped you today, please give it a like. It helps other seniors who are struggling to find this information. Share it with someone you love who is losing sleep and does not know why. Subscribe for more honest, caring senior health guidance every week. And leave a comment below. Tell me what time you wake up, and tell me if anything in this video resonated with your experience. Your story matters, and it may be exactly what someone else needs to hear. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. Always consult your personal doctor before making changes to your healthcare, medications, sleep habits, or treatment plan.